This from Jack Davis at the Western Journal. Trump on Friday fired his first salvo in what likely will be a long legal fight to protect his presidential records from Democrats who have set up a commission to investigate the January 6th Capitol incursion. Trump has demanded in a letter to the National Archives that it not release records to the panel due to legal issues, quote, including but not limited to the presidential communications deliberative process and attorney-client privileges. Trump followed that by calling the situation a political game, according to the New York Post. The radical left Democrats, this is a quote from Donald Trump's statement, tried the Russia witch hunt. They tried the fake impeachments, and now they're trying once again to use Congress to persecute their political opponents. Their requests are not based in law or reality. It's just a game to these politicians. More from that statement. This committee's fake investigation is not about January 6th any more than the Russia hoax was about Russia. Instead, this is about using the power of the government to silence Trump and our Make America Great Again movement, the greatest such achievement of all time. Now, White House counsel Dana Remus sent the National Archives a letter telling the independent government agency to obey Biden and not Trump. Quote, President Biden has determined that an assertion of executive privilege is not in the best interests of the United States and therefore is not justified as to any of the documents, Remus wrote. The constitutional protections of executive privilege should not be used to shield from Congress or the public information that reflects a clear and apparent effort to subvert the Constitution itself, she said. Now, I'd agree with that statement, all else being equal. But I think it's highly questionable whether the events of January 6th did, in fact, constitute a, quote, clear and apparent effort to subvert the Constitution, as Dana Remus wrote. In fact, I think that most of the facts at the Capitol on that date were, in fact, trying to get officials to abide by the Constitution, or at least by their understanding of what the Constitution requires of them. Ms. Remus, therefore, appears to be arguing that the president was obviously attempting to subvert the Constitution, and therefore the document should be provided to the House Select Committee investigating the Capitol incursion on January 6th. However, if that's the case, then no congressional inquiry seems to be necessary if we've already determined what happened. So therefore, why bother actually reviewing these documents in question? In that sense, former President Trump appears to be right. The whole thing appears to be little more than political gamesmanship by a party determined to remain in power after next year's midterm elections, despite having a miserable record on which to run. But is Trump also right in fighting the release of these documents? Does his refusal make him look like he has something to hide? Is that what the American people are going to take away from this? As conservatives, for that matter, shouldn't we be arguing for more transparency in government and not less? Again, all else being equal. Guys, what do you think? Is this the right move by Donald Trump?
It's difficult for me to say. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I feel like I agree with the sentiment from Donald Trump, which is that he doesn't want to give these documents over because he thinks that the January 6th inquiry is pretty bogus. And I agree. I think it's pretty bogus. So from that standpoint, I understand what he's saying. The problem is that it makes him look suspicious. It makes it, if nothing happened on that day, on January 6th, that would, indict him in any way, it makes it look suspicious that he says, well, I'm not going to provide these documents because I don't think this is a warranted investigation that they're doing. Okay, I understand where he's coming from, but from the outside, it looks like he's not going to turn over this information. He's being accused of these crimes, of ignoring the Constitution, of trying to steal the election, whatever it is. And so it feels to me like, while I see where he's coming from, it's probably not the smartest move for him, politically speaking.
Michael, what do you think? The bogusness of the investigation enough to justify Trump's refusal to cooperate?
I mean, I think
I'm going to use bogus multiple times now in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of
podcast.
Bogusness going on.
Bogery
around all of this.
Yeah, that's it. I'm writing that one down.
I write stories for a living.
Yep. Bogery. That's you need to copyright that, young man.
When you look at the full context of everything all these investigations that they've done into Trump, even when he gives them over things that don't show evidence of anything, they still use it against him as like proof. Like, we think about the call he had with the Ukrainian president where they were like, oh, it's pro quo, but it was not at all.
Right.
They just took like lines out of context. So I understand him not being cooperative. And we know now that the entire Russian investigation was based on a lie. It was based on nothing. It was all a hoax. And they still used information they found from Trump against him along that way. So I totally understand what he's doing. Is it the right tack to take? Probably not. There's probably a more strategic way you could handle this instead of just saying, nope, I'm just not going to hand anything over. But in the full context of everything he's had to deal with, I totally understand this move, and I'm not, horribly upset by it.